Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars. SoundCartel. They say to be kind because everyone is dealing with something, even those in a seemingly picture-perfect life, married with a house in the suburbs and 3 kids. But when mental ill health does creep out, particularly in the workplace, what should be the approach? From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. When Joel Clapham was 16 years old, his father committed suicide. Joel says, looking back, that his dad had experienced intense periods of depression in the years leading up to his death. But he was of a generation that didn't easily discuss things. In Joel's words, his dad simply hardened up and soldiered on until the day when he could soldier on no more. Joel was determined that he wouldn't follow in his father's footsteps. After coming to terms with his own mental struggles, he founded Hearten Up, a play on words but, of course, the completely opposite meaning to the harden up approach that had been his father's downfall. And now he's taking Hearten Up into the workplace, offering practical first aid steps to support anyone suffering signs of mental ill health. It's been a long road for Joel, who takes Heather Dawson back to the fateful event that unleashed his own demons, the suicide of his warm, loving, but afflicted father.
He ended up taking his own life when I was 16. He was just 35. So I guess that's where my real battle, and my conscious battle, I guess, with mental ill health sort of kicked off. Although I did suppress it for a while, I wasn't willing to acknowledge that there were some things going on. I didn't know what normal was and what normal wasn't. So it was a bit of a journey to get to that point where a diagnosis was something that I not only sought but welcomed and embraced. That happened for me. The formal diagnosis and a proper acceptance of treatment happened around 2011 or 12. And then in 2013, I got what was the job opportunity of a lifetime. I'm a writer by trade. I went to uni to study writing. So I got offered the opportunity to work for an organisation in the creative sector using my marketing skills and my communication skills. And it was the perfect job on paper, and at that point I had the perfect life on paper. I was married, 3 children, living in a nice house that we bought in a lovely area, and all the boxes were ticked, but I was a mess. I still had some unresolved and unprocessed and unaddressed trauma, really, and grief over my father's suicide. And so that all came to a head for me in 2016, and all the boxes that were ticked in 2013 were suddenly no longer ticked. I took some extended medical leave from that wonderful job that I'd been offered and had done a great job in. So I took some extended medical leave and later resigned. My marriage ended, and I had, at least logistically, become the absent father to my children that I'd always wanted to avoid repeating. I was at a really low point, if I can be perfectly frank with you. I was approaching the same age that my father was when he died, and I felt as though I was being pulled to follow the same script as him. I didn't want to, so I was determined to try and find a way through it. And I guess the silver lining of my dad's death was where I found my path. My dad didn't talk, really. He wasn't very open. He grew up in a time where men were men and they just soldiered on and kept calm and carry on, as all the tea towels and bumper stickers say. But his outcome was that he died. And I wanted the opposite outcome. I want the opposite outcome to him, which is to survive and thrive and be a wonderful dad to my children. And so if I wanted the opposite outcome to my father, I thought I really need to take the opposite steps. So I embraced being open. I embraced help. I embraced accepting help, seeking help, trying to find the best mix of professionals and also personal supports that would be beneficial to me. And I spent a good few years sort of breaking down and becoming comfortable with that and not feeling ashamed of being a broken person for a period of time. And, I'm sort of coming through what feels like the other side. And the beauty of that is that I've discovered a passion and a vocation that aligns with what I really feel the world needs more of, which is more peer support and more training and confidence when it comes to dealing with other people who are suffering from mental ill health. So it's been a journey, but I'm really happy that it's still continuing. And I love the fact that I've found what I consider to be my calling now.
Well, that takes us to Hearten Up. What is it, Joel? Tell us about it.
Well, it's a business that I set up. I registered the business name quite accidentally but beautifully on what would have been my father's birthday in 2019. Hearten Up it's a phrase that I came to sort of live by and really embrace, to challenge that old notion that we used to say to each other of harden up. I found that really counterintuitive and quite destructive. By hardening up, we suppress how we feel and we don't deal with the things that we're facing. So Hearten Up became a bit of a motto that I tried to live by, and being human and being open and vulnerable, authentic being the buzz phrase of the time. And so I thought if I wanted to work in that area, I was supporting people with mental health and helping to equip others with more confidence and skills, then what better thing to name the entity. So I'm now an accredited instructor or facilitator in mental health first aid, and I've got an extensive personal lived experience of mental ill health and being the child of someone who died by suicide and somebody who's been right to that precipice themselves. And so Hearten Up is all about training businesses and individuals, and particularly with a philanthropic focus on regional communities as well, where the more required services aren't as readily available.
The focus is first aid. So what does that mean?
Mental health first aid is essentially stepping in or offering to support someone who might be experiencing a mental health crisis until professional help can arrive or be connected with them. But it's also offering that first level of support to someone who might be experiencing a period of mental ill health and may not be aware of it or may not have the support that would be best for them to recover.
Yes, because with the best will in the world, people want to help, but sometimes they just simply don't know how to go about it. And they don't want to make things worse either.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's Hearten Up and mental health first aid in particular. It's that next compassionate, supportive stage after asking, are you okay? Are you okay? The organisation has done a brilliant job of raising awareness among the community that it is perfectly okay and actually encouraged to have open conversations with people. But where it gets tricky is if the answer is a no or perhaps a guarded yes, where we think maybe the real answer is no. And that's where mental health first aid comes in and gives someone the skills and confidence to have that next deeper conversation and connect the person with support.
So what should a business manager, a business owner or just a colleague do beyond the are you okay question?
Taking a step back from that, Heather, I think the most important thing to do at a foundational level is just to acknowledge that we are all human. The manager is a human being, their employee, their colleague is a human being. So as humans, we are flawed, we are imperfect, there will be ups and there will be downs. That's a given. We can't wipe that away no matter how much we might wish to for other people. So if we feel that someone could benefit from us having an open conversation with them, the best thing to do is just to approach them in a calm and compassionate and respectful way and just mention that you might have noticed that they don't quite seem themselves or that they seem to have a lot on their mind and they might be behaving a little differently to what would be their normal. And then we just listen and continue to ask how they're going and whether there's anything we can do. And there's a number of steps from there that we can take depending on how the conversation might go.
Because Hearten Up, you have a couple of programs, I gather. Just explain a little bit more about what those programs offer.
Sure. So the core product or the core service that we offer is training people and businesses in mental health first aid. That's where it all started and that's what I absolutely love. So we do mental health first aid training. We also do something I call normalising conversations, where we just give some advice and guidance to businesses and entities on how we can leverage those conversations that they're having with their people every day and bring a more human level to that or a more human focus to that. And the perfect example that I always bring up is I would love to see a CEO or a chair at an AGM spend 60 to 90 seconds mentioning the things that they've loved about the previous reporting period, but also the things that they found challenging, either at home or as a person. And I think that would be a wonderful way to demonstrate that we are all human and that we can't always separate work and home. As we found out last year, they're intrinsically entwined. So we work to try and integrate those sorts of conversations. And the other thing that I'm sort of putting together at the moment is a program called Restump, which is looking at the 4 foundations of good physical and mental health. Your listeners won't be able to tell, but Heather, you can tell that I'm certainly not the embodiment of peak physical health. That's okay. It's an ongoing project for me. I am human. But the 4 foundations are good sleep and rest, good food and nutrition, good exercise and activity, and good connections. And so with that program, what we're looking to do is to take people through some of the science behind why those things are so crucial, not only to our physical health, but our mental health, and then set them up with some easy achievable goals that will set them on the right path from that point on. So we do a bunch of different things. I'm sure that will expand or contract at some points over time. That's the journey of life. But I love doing what I do. I've got a smile on my face that a few years ago I wouldn't have even thought was possible. So it's really cool to be at this point.
Joel, is there anything that people shouldn't do if they're concerned about one of their work colleagues, for example?
Sure. Probably the most important thing that I'd encourage people not to do is to give in to the worry or uncertainty that they might make it worse by starting a conversation or approaching somebody to have a conversation. At the very worst, if you stumble through a conversation with somebody, you will show that you are a human being and you don't always get things right, and that might very well have the positive effect of showing the other person that it's okay to bumble along. That's all right. But if we feel that somebody is not doing all that well, it is perfectly okay, and really I would encourage it to approach that person respectfully and just ask them how they're going and then go from there.
So if people want to get in touch with you, Joel, or find out more about Hearten Up, what should they do?
You can visit our website, hardenup.com.au, or visit us on all the social media channels. And I'm happy just to get a message from anybody who might like to say g'day, or even have somebody to send that 3 a.m. mind purge of an email dump to. I'm not a qualified counsellor or anything like that, but I'm a person who cares and will always acknowledge someone's bravery in sharing how they feel with somebody else.
That was Hearten Up founder Joel Clapham. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow @BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.